that if your cup isn't full and you're having these symptoms, you may need a different plan. The plan that was working for you 5 years ago might not be enough right now. This is another little thing that you have in your handouts. It's just a real simple visual of a self-care plan, different kind of way to think of it. What I love about it is they have kind of the goals on the bottom right and the bottom left, supportive people in my life. So that idea that, you might not be very motivated for self-care. I certainly have trouble when I'm tired to do really healthy things for myself. But if I, get, a good friend who's gonna go hang out with, we make a date to go to this yoga class together, it can make all the difference of whether I actually do that thing or not. So, because it's now like a couple people are going, I have the advantage of seeing them. It's kind of a commitment. It just helps my brain do that. So kind of listing the humans in your life that might be a good, extra help. So this is, now I want to move into like a slightly different zone, because there's this whole problem with self-care, which is like making time for it. And I think for those of you who've attended my trauma-informed practice training, we've done that. This will be a review, but I think it's fine to review because I review it all the time. So in the here and now of our work, I feel like the area we could all do better at taking care of our own nervous system is actually here and now while we're working with our people, in between our people. That's because it's not time. You don't need time. You don't need to make time to go to the gym or make time for this, make time for that. In a busy life, time is precious and short, and you might not have much of it. So I want to sort of inspire in everybody the idea that we could work with our nervous system while we are having conversations with people in a different way. And the most simple of those is something that I learned in my trauma training. So the visual that we were given, which I have never forgotten, is that you're sitting with someone empathically, and most people, if they're not trained otherwise, will merge with that person. They will be listening and trying to be really heartfelt and there for them, and they'll be merging a little bit. Their energetic system will be kind of a little bit lost in the other person's story, and it sounds really fancy, or creepy, maybe emerging, but really it's just the most natural thing in the world. Someone tells you a story and you go to a movie, and almost the marker of whether it was a good movie is if you merged into that movie. And if you spend the whole time thinking, oh, those are really interesting actors, and I wonder what the lighting is like when, you merge into this world very naturally. It's what human brains do. We merge into story, we merge into emotions that we're experiencing. And that's fine if you're experiencing one or two really intense, 3 times in your life, one of your friends goes through like a mind-blowing, terrifying experience and wants to tell you all about it for hours and hours. Merging with them might not cause you injury. That's fine. But if your work is to hear these stories, to attend these stories, be present for someone who just lost someone they love, your brain stem can't tolerate that for very long. So everyone's different on what that threshold is, but this idea of the difference between merging and then the alternative, which is joining. So my sort of impression is that if we merge for too long, eventually we can't take it, and we start getting this feeling inside. We start getting aversion, we start actually getting really shut down. I think it's really common and normal and common among health professionals where there's like an extreme detachment, I remember when I was very new in this field, going into the hospital with somebody who was so dear to me. I was their counselor and I was new at this, and I just couldn't believe how nobody seemed to be there. How detached everyone was. It was kind of like, this is weird, nobody cares. Nobody feels like they care. And I actually think that's just the natural cost of having merged for a little while, and then this kind of alternative takes over where it's like, okay, I need a professional distance. But it's not necessarily connected anymore. So I think this difference that I learned to be a good trauma therapist is something we all can practice, and it's mostly a practice. So while I'm talking to you, keep your eyes open, because with your clients you're always going to have your eyes open. I just want you to kind of imagine that you're sitting there and I'm some client talking, and talking about something really hard or something really compelling or something that you think you have the answer to, or that you're sure you don't have the answer to and you're not going to be able to help them. And you just decide, okay, I'm a bit triggered, I'm not in a good spot in myself. I'm going to do that practice. So I'm just going to keep talking, and I want you, while I'm talking, to just say, okay, I'm going to do this practice, and I'm going to feel the back of my chair. So even if your mind doesn't think this is necessary or is going to work, you just start to kind of relax the way you're listening to me and let the listening happen a little bit automatic. So now you're not focused as much on what I'm saying. You drop into your body, but you're not dropping into your throat, your heart, your tummy, which is where anxiety and stress register. You're dropping into your skeleton. So literally just feel the back of your chair, your feet on the ground, and just track that. And kind of keep tracking it. So you just let the English language that has to listen to my words and understand English just happen all by itself, while you pull your awareness just into your body, into your back and your legs and your feet. If you have pain in your body in one of those places, don't do that. Do something different. But you're just specifically not paying attention to your viscera, which is where all the alarm bells register. You're just dropping into your body in this kind of very generic musculoskeletal way. So you just feel your body. Step 2 is that you become really just alert in other senses. So while you're looking at me, just be like, give yourself a cue, okay, alert to color. And when you get used to doing this, you suddenly you're just like alert to color. You see me now as this like form up there, red, that color is behind me. You just like alert to the colors that are making up this visual field. Just alert to color, feel the chair, alert to color, feel the chair. And this is not gonna be relaxing for everybody, but what you're doing in the most simple way is building in mindfulness practices for your brain to kind of be present in a kind of simple way in the room. And you can still listen, and people are different in how some people, I often get the feedback, I can't really do that while I'm listening to people, that's just too much for me, and then find other things, that's totally fine. But there are ways that you can help your brainstem kind of really kind of be alert to the physicality of this present moment. And why that's important is because the story they're telling you is happening in your imagination. In their imagination, which is then queuing up your imagination. But this room, it helps your brainstem actually understand it's 2018, I'm a grown-up, I'm not 8 years old and all my friends are mad at me if I don't do a good job, I'm not being, all the things that happen to us that might be queuing through our brain at that moment that we don't even know are happening. And this room is safe, there's no earthquake, there's no one shouting outside my door, we're not in a war. Very basic things, but the primitive system of your brain, if you bring yourself more into this room, your primitive brain suddenly goes, oh, okay. And so with practice you might be able to feel a little bit of a downshift of just your slight stress response or your numbness, which is another form of the stress response. So being able to kind of track while you're sitting with people, okay, I'm a little bit triggered, I'm trying too hard, I'm worried, I'm mad, I can't wait till they get out of here, I just had a thought about a glass of wine at the end of the day. Like, that happens to all people while they're doing this work, right? So it's like, okay, that's a sign I need this practice. And it's more important than whatever it is, and with practice you get so that you can do that and not lose too much of the content or any. I find I certainly still get the gist of what's happening, and we're not trying to track it like a math problem anyway. We don't need to concentrate on words that tightly. It's really appropriate that we feel our bodies while we're working, that we stay very much in the room, and you're not going to be meditating 24/7 of your life, but when you're triggered, it's really good to learn that you need to bring in practices and not wait till the end of the day, not wait till between your clients. You can do them right there. And then on that note, being able to help your clients slow down if possible. Very different if you're in a first response situation. I mean, actually, I think first responders, sometimes I reference my imagining of, or at least my little limited witnessing of, you know, how a first responder would address, say, somebody who's panicking. They go into this quite naturally to try to really stay calm with their voice and slow the situation down in any way they can, you know. So we can do that when we're hearing people's stories. We can invite people to just like, without being too abrupt, we can invite people, so what, you know, find a way, like a practice, finding a way to invite people to slow down that isn't intrusive. And it's scary for people to sort of stop someone right in the middle of their story when someone's really wound up. So I give people a little bit of education ahead of any counseling I do. I say, you're going to find that sometimes I'm going to slow us down, and that's just because I know that there's ways to tell these stories that are good for processing them and helping them really move on, and there's ways that aren't as helpful, and that's kind of one of my jobs here. So sometimes I'm going to invite us to slow down. And I say the word invite because I'm not really, you know, if you say to someone, so would it be all right if I just help slow us down for a sec and check in, how you doing? Like, you know, right in the middle of some story, like the idea that someone is lost in some past story and escalating, you know, inviting them, just like, okay, you're just going to invite us, like I said, you know, it's helpful to slow down, so is it okay if I invite you to slow down? And if they say, no, it's not okay, then that's good information. I'm using that as like an assessment. Okay, so either way, I'm going to slow myself down, and I'm going to slow my voice down, and I'm not going to ask another prompting question, which is going to speed them up more. There's things I can do, even if they say no, but most of the time, people are actually kind of relieved to be slowed down a tiny bit. And it's really good for me, because my nervous system needs us to slow down too, right? So you're kind of tracking your nervous system, and then you finding simple strategies to help the other person. Also maybe get a tiny bit grounded, invite them to like, just like wondering if you could, you know, I usually start appointments with people where I know about little good moments in their week, you know, and then I can sort of bring those in when I need to. You know, like, just take a little minute and remember your puppy Rusty, can you see his face? Now let's just take a little pause, and we'll come back to it just to help us not just be totally lost in that trauma vortex. So that's sort of, in that realm, I'm curious, like we did a minute ago about self-care, if people could give examples of things they do while they're with clients with their eyes open that sort of help regulate their own nervous system, as well as the client's nervous system at the same time. What are your strategies? That's kind of the little 101 on my core strategy that I use. Go ahead.
You know, sometimes when the person's really escalated, breathing fast and like hyperventilating, I'll match breathing and then slow mine down and slows theirs down at the same time. Sort of, it's not really overt, but it's a little way to help bring
Right, so you use that mirroring idea where you kind of join them a little bit up there, and then you help, like together you kind of come down without even saying what you're doing.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah. Or sometimes I'll say, you know, take a big breath right now, just focus on the breathing as opposed to the story.
Yeah, wonderful. Other examples? Things that you do, yeah?
Well, I had an incident one time that happened to me because I was hyperventilating. I brought in a patient and she was having a stroke. And we're at the first point where the nurse the assessment, and she looks at me and she raised her voice at me. And she says, I want you to sit down in that chair and breathe deeply. And all of a sudden, she just put me in a shock mode, right? Just totally stopped me. And I stopped breathing for a minute, and then I resumed regular breathing and just let her take over because I knew that she was in command. So I just sort of backed off, sat down in my chair, and relaxed. But I was hyperventilating because, you know, that's the situation I was involved in.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a professional, and I was vulnerable that I couldn't help this person. I had to bring them to someone else who could provide assistance.
Right.
And in that short time, I ended up almost becoming a patient too.
Yeah, and that worked for you, right?
Yeah,
and is there anyone in the room who thinks that totally wouldn't work if someone did that to them? Yeah, a
like,
couple people.
ordered me to do something. Yeah.
Ordered you to take a deep breath. You know, so this is such a good example. Like for you, that was perfect, right?
It was just perfect because she raised her voice because she
Got your
was taking-
attention?
She was taking over. She was in command.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where I was. I was vulnerable and didn't know what to do. And
Yeah.
she took over and I backed off.
Yeah, and for another person, that might have been exactly the way their mother did it, and it might escalate them even more inside. So this is really important to realize, because that's like a good story of something that worked perfectly for you, might not work for someone else, and that's the nature of this stuff. For ourselves and for any clients we're working with, is that we're very, very different, but the principles are the same. We need to find ways to track how we're doing and to take a little bit of charge of that and not necessarily expect that what works for one person is going to work for another, but not let that shy us away from trying. That we just lay our cards out on the table and say, one of my jobs here is to help us find ways to not be totally lost in traumatic stories, but make sure we're still in the room while experiencing some of that, because that's what the brain really likes, you know, in terms of putting a story, digesting a story better, you know. So I'm going to help us do that, but you're going to help me figure out the way to do that with you, you know. So we don't have to be an expert, we don't have to be some perfectly trained trauma professional, but to take charge of our own nervous system and to play with that so that you're used to what that feels like, and then to experiment with other people to help them if your job allows you to do that, you know, is kind of the two. But being able to, you know, the more I do that with clients, what's nice about it is that then sometimes a special situation comes along that overpasses that, and I'm really, and then I know, okay, I have my maintenance stuff that helps, and then there's times where I need more, and then I go knock on a colleague's door, I call a therapist, I get, you know, I tried lots of different kinds of therapy, physical therapy, psychological therapies, to figure out which one makes the biggest difference for me, the quickest, who are the people that make the difference for me, because I you know, it's like, I don't want to walk around more with that for another couple weeks, so I, you know, okay, I need to book an appointment. Who's that going to be? What's that going to look like? Oh, I can't get into my therapist. She's out of town. Okay, I need a massage. I need some whatever. You know, like I just, as soon as my own systems are, my maintenance systems are overpassed, I reach out right away. You know, because our brain, we can't always do it alone. You know, sometimes one of my teachers in somatic psychotherapy was saying that, you know, we're social creatures, so there are times where your brain system wants another person there to hold space for you, and then it will let it go. And you don't necessarily know when that hits, except that suddenly all your things don't work and you need to reach out for help. Other thoughts before kind of changing that?
I just thought of one thing that I learned when I was just starting out, because when I was just starting out, like I didn't have a lot of experience, and you know, you just constantly get curveballs thrown at you and stuff, and you're just like, whoa, never trained for this, you know, and another paramedic said to me, just be like a duck, and like, just like a duck can just gliding across the water, super calm, super smooth, it looks like its nose is doing, even if like under the water, it's like, legs are like, it just like looks like just super chill and serene, and that's how you gotta be. Just like, I feel like if I just like present myself as a professional, even if I'm like not really sure what I'm doing, I don't do anything that I'm not safe doing, but just like let the person know that they're, you know, safe with me, or like feel safe with me
as if you've got
professional. Yeah, and then that will calm like them down, and it'll calm family down, like.
And that's actually, it's true, because that can be it can be quite a thing when they're panicking, and inside you're like, you know, they're like, I don't know if you can help me, and you have that voice that goes, I'm not sure either. Like, you know, like that might be a truth.
Yeah.
But then for me, I'll do these kind of grounding practices, slow my own nervous system down, and then I'm like, it's going to be like, I just kind of come forward with a level of confidence. And it's, you know, for me, I don't know about other people, but I have to almost draw on a spiritual place in myself to do that, where maybe on the pragmatic level it's not going to be okay, but I try to drop into a place that I have from my own life practices where on one level I trust it's all okay, like in a sort of weird way that we can make sense of this crazy world where tons of not okay things are happening. I sometimes have to kind of drop into that to have that confidence, like, you know, and that can make a big difference, that I'm sort of going to take leadership in this room, and that because it's amazing how good that feels, and it feels really good for me when someone else can be like, it's gonna be okay. You're not gonna be, this isn't gonna be like this forever. I'm like, oh really, you sure? Thanks. I'm willing to receive that too, right? So,
I had a really interesting conversation with somebody when I was working in Vancouver. It was a lot of people there, and I was running this meeting with the case management, and we had a translator there. And this person was obviously heated by body language and tone and volume, but I didn't understand what they were saying. And it was amazing because the translator took away the swearing, took away the volume, took away the tone and body language, and I was able to respond in such a better way because I wasn't escalated by it. So it's like, it's in your control.
that's right. That's right, that's such a
It was
cool thing to
it was like
experience.
magical. I just taught myself, it's like your mind is such a powerful thing, and it's just, and another thing I learned, I was working with really high-risk youth in Calgary, and one guy recommended playing your favorite, so if someone's going on at you, whatever, colorful, even if it's in English, play your favorite song in your head and just, keep playing your favorite song when they're calmer, and then you have a better conversation.
Yeah,
So it's,
so kind of unmerge from this, like, what's being said to you, just give yourself a little buffer.
and they also kind of think you're listening, which is good, because they need to get it out.
Yeah,
And then they maybe calm down, and then you're able to give yourself a bit of a break, that luxury of a break and a deep breath,
yeah,
and then you can respond in a way that's more helpful, that's not on the defense.
that's
So
right.
I've learned to really, like that, having that translator there, that was like a year worth of school. It was like, holy cow, am I ever different? Because she was heated, like, it was crazy.
Yeah,
But I didn't get that in the translation.
yeah.
I mean, I saw it,
But that gap gave you the gap where your
I was
nervous
able to
system felt
calm
okay.
and
Yeah,
like, whoa, I'm glad I don't understand what you're saying to me right now.
yeah, amazing. Yeah, so there's a bunch in here on grounding. There's a lot of different ways to ground, but the whole purpose of grounding really is about the more you come into the present moment, it helps your brainstem just kind of reorient to what's actually happening. And most of the time, if someone's coming at you with some attacking physical thing, you obviously aren't going to stop and ground. You're going to get out of the way. But most of the time, grounding and orienting actually helps us kind of slow down our nervous system and have that buffer right in the moment. And then if it was really intense, you might need even more. So that's where we'll end. Thank you, everyone.
So thanks so much, Sandy, for sharing all your knowledge and expertise and helping us to remain present in our work. And we're really grateful to have you present here today to help everyone. And so we're going to have our dinner now, our early dinner, and then we'll reconvene at 5 o'clock for Leslie's presentation. That was really great. I really enjoyed it. So great. So helpful.